The moment I chose my daughter over my entire family, everything changed. My phone buzzed an hour after I clicked not attending. Hey man, everything okay? It was from Michael, my younger brother, the one getting married, the one who decided that my daughter no. My stepdaughter didn't make the cut for his elegant adult-only wedding. My name is David Miller, I'm 47. I teach history at a public high school in Kingston, New York. I've been raising Emma since she was 5 years old. She's 17 now. I was standing at the kitchen counter when the invitation came. One of those high-end ones with thick cardstock, gold trim, and a wax seal like a medieval decree. I cracked it open with a knife and read it, adults only 21 and over, strictly enforced, no exceptions. Emma was on the couch with her sketch pad, halfway through designing another logo for her dream art business. I read the line out loud. She looked up slowly. So I'm not invited. I didn't sugarcoat it. They made it adults only. She nodded, eyes drifting back to the page, but I saw it in her face. That flicker of something, not shock, not exactly, more like confirmation of something she's always known but hoped wasn't true. I didn't say anything more, didn't call Michael, didn't argue with my parents. I just went back to the serve up link, clicked not attending, and shut the laptop. That was it, or at least it should have been. Then came Michael's text, hey man, everything okay? I stared at it for a second. That was the thing about my brother. He was always acting like nothing was personal, even when it absolutely was. So I wrote back, Emma wasn't invited. I'm not going without her, he answered within a minute. Oh yeah, sorry if that came off harsh. We're just trying to be consistent, you know, keep it all 21 plus across the board. I could practically hear his voice, casual and polished, always ready with an excuse that made him sound reasonable while making me feel unreasonable for caring. But I knew the truth. This wasn't about consistency. Emma wasn't wanted there. Not in the pictures, not in the speeches, not at the table, and I was done pretending otherwise, so I put my phone face down on the counter, walked back into the living room, and sat next to my daughter. What do you think of this one? She asked, turning the pad toward me. The design was clean, sharp, a bold simple circle enclosing the words first draft. I smiled. Looks like a brand already, she shrugged. I don't know, maybe I'll tweak the font. And just like that, we went back to normal. No fighting, no sulking, no explanations needed. Because Emma had learned a long time ago not to expect invitations. And I had finally learned how to respond when she didn't get one. By standing next to her. Not walking through the door that wouldn't open for her. Not this time. Emma's always been a quiet kid, not shy, just watchful. The kind of kid who'd rather sit on the edge of the crowd and sketch what she sees than jump into the middle of it. I don't know if she was always like that or if it started after her dad left when she was 4. But I've known her since she was 5, and that's how she's always been with me. Observing, waiting, like she learned early that the world might not have room for her unless she made herself small enough to fit in the leftover spaces. The first time she called me dad was by accident. We were watching one of those dumb cooking competition shows, and she pointed to a contestant and said, he burns stuff like you do, Dad. Then her face froze. She looked up at me, eyes wide with that particular terror kids get when they think they've said something wrong. Sorry, she mumbled. I remember my heart just cracked wide open. It's okay, I told her. You can call me whatever feels right. She nodded and went back to her popcorn. But after that, it stuck. Dad, not David, not stepdad, just Dad. Still, to my family, she was never really my daughter. My mom always referred to her as David's stepdaughter, never our granddaughter, never just Emma. It was always a technicality, like a disclaimer at the end of a commercial that protected them from false advertising. And it wasn't just words. At family dinners, the other kids, the real grandkids, got greeted with hugs and teasing and laughter. Emma got a nod, a polite smile, the kind you give to a neighbor's kid you don't really know. There was that one Easter, maybe 5 years ago, my sister Lisa organized a big egg hunt in her backyard. Every kid had a basket with their name on it, ribbons and all, hand calligraphed tags tied with those thin satin bows. Emma's basket was different, no name, just a plain wicker basket with a generic Happy Spring tag, the kind you buy in bulk at the dollar store. I noticed right away. Emma saw it too, but she didn't say anything. She just smiled like she always did and went along with it. Later, I watched her arrange the plastic grass in her nameless basket, making it neat and perfect, like if she just tried hard enough, it might transform into something that belonged to her. Later in the car, I asked her if she was okay. She said, yeah, It's just a basket. But it wasn't. It was one of 1,000 little reminders that she was almost family, close enough to be invited, but not close enough to belong. Then there was the drawing. She was 12. She spent a week sketching this beautiful portrait of our family, me, Sarah, her, and our dog Max. She used colored pencils and worked on it every day after school, erasing and redrawing until it was perfect. She framed it herself with a frame she bought with her allowance. Gave it to my mom for Christmas. My mom smiled, said, "Oh, how nice," and set it on the side table next to the couch. That was it. She never hung it up, never asked about it again, never mentioned how beautiful Emma's art was or how much time she's spent on it. A couple years later, I found it in the hall closet behind a stack of wrapping paper, gathering dust like something forgotten. I never told Emma, but I took it, hung it in our kitchen where it belonged. I wish I could say I did more, that I stood up for her every time. But I didn't. I kept thinking maybe they'd come around, that if I kept bringing her to dinners and birthdays and holidays, they'd start seeing her the way I did, as my daughter, as part of us. But they didn't, and over time I watched Emma start to shrink herself. She stopped making jokes at the table, stopped asking to bring her sketch pad, stopped trying to join conversations. She learned to make herself invisible because being seen meant risking rejection, and rejection hurt less when you expected it. I didn't even realize it at first. I just noticed one day that she didn't look up when someone asked how school was going. She just nodded and said, "Fine," and kept her eyes on her plate, like she'd figured out that the safest place to be was nowhere at all. That's when I understood she wasn't angry. She was protecting herself. She had figured out that being quiet hurt less than being ignored, that not trying hurt less than trying and failing to matter. And that's what killed me the most. Not the way they treated her, but how good she got at pretending she didn't need their love. How gracefully she learned to expect nothing, so she wouldn't be disappointed when nothing was exactly what she got. I should have stopped dragging her to those dinners years ago. I should have stopped making excuses for people who couldn't see what was right in front of them. Instead, I hoped, and while I was hoping, Emma was learning how to disappear all by herself. The morning after I serve up snow, Michael texted me like nothing happened. "Hope you understand, man, just trying to be consistent. Nothing personal, consistent." That was the word he chose. Not thoughtful, not respectful, just consistent. Like Emma was a policy exception rather than a person. I stared at my phone, waiting for something else. Maybe sorry, maybe I didn't think it through. Maybe some acknowledgement that a 17-year-old girl who'd been part of our family for over a decade deserved better than a form letter rejection. But nothing else came. Then, a few hours later, the group chat lit up. "Lisa, really over one rule? Mom, it's one evening, David. Don't punish Michael for a policy, punish." That was how they saw it. Like I was grounding Michael by not showing up. Like I was withholding something from him instead of protecting Emma from another reminder that she didn't quite belong. I replied once, just once. Emma wasn't invited. I'm not going without her. There was a pause, a long one. I could almost feel the silence on the screen, the collective eye roll, the shared frustration with David and his stepkid drama. Then came my mom's message, "He's family." That was it. 2 words, like they fixed everything. But if Emma were family, she would have been included from the start. If she were family, her name would have been on an invitation. If she were family, I wouldn't be the only one noticing how she gets left out year after year after year. The excuses kept rolling in like a parade of polite deflections. "She's almost 18, David. It's just a wedding. We can't bend the rules for everyone. Plenty of people are leaving their kids at home. They just wanted a sophisticated evening, as sophisticated as if Emma's presence would somehow lower the tone. As if a quiet, artistic 17-year-old who's never caused a moment of trouble would disrupt their elegant affair. As long as it didn't inconvenience them, no one asked how Emma felt. No one checked in with Sarah. No one said, "Hey, we messed up," because that would mean admitting something had been wrong for years. That would mean acknowledging that they'd spent over a decade making a child feel like she was borrowing space in her own family. Instead, they acted like I was the one causing a scene, like I was blowing it out of proportion, like I was making things uncomfortable by refusing to pretend that this was normal, that this was okay. They wanted the event to stay smooth, pretty, unbothered by a kid they never fully made room for. But what they didn't realize was that this wasn't just about the wedding. This was years in the making. The basket with no names, the drawing stuffed in a closet, the polite smiles that never reached their eyes, the way conversations stopped when she entered a room, The way they talked around her like she was a piece of furniture that couldn't hear, and now a wedding where she didn't fit the policy, where being almost family wasn't quite enough. I saw it clearly for the first time. I had spent so long trying to build a bridge between Emma and my family, hoping that if we just kept showing up, they'd eventually see her the way I did, as someone worth knowing, someone worth loving, someone worth including. But all they saw was the rule I was breaking, the tradition I was disrupting, the inconvenience I was creating by insisting that my daughter mattered, and in the group chat, I became the villain, not Michael for excluding her, not Lisa for mocking me, not my mom for pretending everything was fine. Me because I said no, because I made a choice, because I drew a line they didn't want to look at. So I muted the chat, let them argue with themselves, because I wasn't explaining myself anymore. I was protecting my daughter. And if that made me the villain in their story, so be it. For the past 10 years, Christmas was always at our house, every December. Like clockwork, I'd drag the folding chairs out of the basement, buy 2 kinds of cider because Mom liked hot, and Lisa liked cold, stock the fridge with Michael's favorite beer even though he never finished more than 2. I cooked the roast, Sarah made her bourbon pecan pie. Emma would hang the lights along the porch even though she pretended to hate it, and every year, they all came. Every year, Emma watched from the edges. She'd help serve dinner, but somehow never quite get invited to sit with the adults. She'd listen to stories about cousins she barely knew, about family memories that happened before she arrived. She'd clear plates and refill water glasses while everyone else relaxed and laughed. Always helping, always useful, never quite belonging. This year, I didn't do any of it. No email thread, no group text asking who was bringing what, no Costco run for extra napkins, no clearing out the fridge for leftovers. I didn't announce my decision. I just didn't start the process. Didn't send the invitation that had always come from me. Sarah didn't ask. She knew Emma didn't ask either. She just noticed I hadn't brought the chairs up from the basement yet. Mid-December, the text started anyway. Lisa, what should I bring for dinner? Michael will be 5. Let us know what Emma wants. That one nearly made me snap. Let us know what Emma wants. Like she was a dietary restriction to accommodate. Like including her now was some thoughtful gesture instead of basic human decency. I didn't reply. A couple days later, my dad left a voicemail. David, it's not too late to do the right thing. Your mother's been crying. The right thing? Like I'd lost my moral compass. Like protecting my daughter from another holiday of watching everyone else belong was somehow wrong. So I let the silence carry the message. No tree in the front window. No wreath on the door. No parking instructions for the cousins. I didn't host, and no one else stepped up. That silence was louder than anything they could have said. It said that for 10 years, I'd been the one making Christmas happen for people who couldn't be bothered to make sure my daughter felt welcome in her own family. On Christmas morning, Sarah and I got up late. Emma made coffee. We stayed in our pajamas until noon. No one knocked. No one called to say, wait, are we still doing it at your place? Because deep down, they knew, they just didn't want to say it out loud. They'd spent years taking my hospitality for granted while treating my daughter like a guest who's overstayed her welcome. The noise stopped, the pretending stopped, and in that space, something new showed up. A kind of peace I didn't know I'd been missing. The kind that doesn't come with obligation or performance. The kind that only comes when you stop trying to earn love from people who've already decided you're not worth the effort. Christmas Day came, and for the first time in a long time it was just the 3 of us. Me, Sarah and Emma. No guests judging our food. No relatives making small talk they didn't mean. No walking on eggshells to keep everyone comfortable. Emma woke up late. Hair sticking up in every direction. Sarah stayed in flannel pants and fuzzy socks all day. I didn't shave. None of us cared about looking presentable because we didn't have to perform for anyone. We didn't do the whole big breakfast production. Just coffee. Leftover lasagna that Sarah heated up, and sugar cookies shaped like snow boots, and birds with carton-wishny big heads. Emma had made the cookie cutters herself with some flimsy aluminum strips and a glue gun the week before. They looked completely ridiculous. But we laughed so hard we had to take breaks while decorating them. Sarah put googly eyes on every cookie, even the ones that weren't supposed to have eyes. Emma said it made them feel seen, and something about that simple statement hit me right in the chest. Made them feel seen. There were no tense pauses, no under-the-breath comments about my parenting, no strained hugs from people who were counting minutes until they could leave. Just the 3 of us, existing in our own space without explanation or apology. In the afternoon, we watched one of those terrible action movies with explosions every 5 seconds and a plot that made no sense. Emma kept pointing out the continuity errors like she was doing DVD commentary. Wait, didn't that car already explode? How does he still have bullets? That's not how physics works. We were crying laughing by the end. At some point, we pulled out the poker set Emma had given Sarah for her birthday. We played for jelly beans because we didn't have actual poker chips. Emma cleaned us out systematically. Every time she won a hand, she made us hand over the jelly beans one by one while humming the Jeopardy theme song. Sarah called her a tyrant. Emma bowed like a villain in a stage play. I accept your surrender, she said, clutching her pile of candy like treasure, and then out of nowhere, as we were sweeping up the last of the cookie crumbs, Emma looked around the living room and said, "This is the best Christmas I can remember." She didn't say it for effect. She didn't say it to make us feel better about the family we'd lost. She said it like a simple fact. Like she'd been keeping track all these years, and this one finally topped the list. I didn't know what to say, but I didn't need to. I looked at Sarah, and she looked at me. Her eyes were soft, shiny with tears she was trying not to shed. She smiled, not the polite kind we've practiced for years. Not the forced holiday kind that hurt your face, but the kind that says, this is what love actually looks like. There were no presents stacked under the tree like a magazine photo, no big speeches about gratitude, no matching pajamas for the Christmas card we'd never send. But there was something else, something I'd been missing without realizing it. There was joy, quiet, unperformed joy, the kind that doesn't need to be photographed or posted or proven to anyone else, the kind that exists just because it can, the kind that makes you realize maybe you don't miss the noise after all. Maybe you were only pretending to enjoy it because you thought you were supposed to. Later that night, Emma disappeared into her room and came back with a sketch she'd made that morning while we were still asleep. It was the three of us sitting on the couch, laughing as Sarah's head was tilted back, mouth open mid-giggle. I was holding my coffee mug that said World's Okiest Dad, a gift from Emma last year. Emma had drawn herself surrounded by a pile of jelly beans, grinning like she's just conquered the world. She handed it to me and said, "Merry Christmas, Dad." Dad, not David, not anything else, just Dad. I didn't frame it, not yet. I left it on the mantle, right where we'd see it every time we walked through the room, because sometimes joy doesn't need to be preserved behind glass. Sometimes it just needs to be noticed. And this time we all did. It was a few days after Christmas. The snow hadn't let up all week, just kept dusting the backyard like powdered sugar on everything we could see. Emma was on the floor, half sitting, half sprawled, sketchpad propped on one knee. I was folding laundry on the couch, stacking towels and trying to ignore the fact that I still hadn't returned anyone's calls. The quiet was comfortable, the kind of quiet that doesn't need to be filled. She didn't look up when she said it. "Do you think they'd like me better if I was your real kid?" It hit me like a physical blow. My hands froze around a bath towel. I looked at her. She was still drawing, eyes fixed on the page like it didn't matter, like she was asking about the weather. But her pencil had stopped moving. I sat down slowly, put the towel aside. I didn't rush to answer because what do you say to a question that breaks your heart into pieces? I wanted to tell her no, absolutely not. Don't be ridiculous. I wanted to tell her she was my real kid, that blood doesn't matter, that love is what makes a family. All the things I'd been telling myself for years, but that would have been a lie, and she deserved better than my lies. They might have pretended better, I said quietly, but their problem's not with you being my stepdaughter. Their problem is that they don't want to make room for one more person to love. She nodded like she already knew, like she'd asked the question not because she needed the answer, but because she needed to hear me say it out loud. I don't think I want them to like me anymore, she said. She didn't say it with bitterness. There was no anger in her voice. Just the clarity that comes when you finally stop waiting for something that was never coming. Like someone who'd been standing outside a locked door for years and finally realized she could just walk away. I wanted to hug her. I wanted to fix it. I wanted to go back in time and be braver, stronger, better at protecting her from this moment. But she wasn't asking for comfort. She was telling me something important. She wasn't hurt anymore. She was done. I watched her go back to her sketch like the conversation was over. And it was, because what else was there to say? She'd made peace with the truth long before I did. She wasn't asking for pity or promises or plans to make things better. She was setting herself free, and for the first time, I saw it clearly. Emma wasn't the one who needed to be defended anymore. She had figured it out. She had learned to protect herself by not needing their approval. It was me who had been clinging to the hope that they'd come around. I was the one still wishing they'd wake up one day and see her the way I did. But Emma, she'd let go. She'd stopped waiting for permission to walk away from people who couldn't see her worth. She was already gone, and all I could do was catch up. A few days after New Year's, I got a text from my dad. "Your mother isn't sleeping. You've shut us out." "That's not you." I stared at it for a long time. "That's not you." I'd heard that phrase my whole life. Anytime I spoke up, anytime I made things uncomfortable, anytime I refused to go along with something that felt wrong. "That's not you." What they really meant was, that's not the version of you we prefer. The version who kept quiet. The version who kept showing up even when his kid was treated like an afterthought. The version who made Christmas dinner for people who couldn't be bothered to learn his daughter's middle name. I didn't reply. Then later that night, Michael sent a voice memo. I knew it was a voice memo before I played it. He always saved the heavy stuff for voice notes. Harder to screenshot, harder to hold him accountable later. I listened. His voice was smooth, deliberate. The voice he used when he was explaining why someone else was wrong. "David, I just wanted to say it really sucks that you took this path. You always made such a fuss about Emma. I get it, you love the kid, but now it feels like you're using her to make a point. That's not healthy, man. You need to let this go. We're family." I deleted it before it finished, blocked his number. I didn't want to hear his voice in my house anymore. Didn't want his words in the air where Emma might hear them. Because here's what Michael and all of them still didn't understand. Loving Emma isn't a fuss. It's not a tactic or a way to win an argument. It's not leverage in some family power struggle. It's just love, the regular kind. The kind that shows up for someone over and over until they stop questioning whether you will. The kind that protects a kid who never asked for protection but learned early on not to expect it. They saw obsession. They called it overreacting. They saw my boundaries as drama because real love, the inconvenient kind. The kind that holds people accountable, makes people uncomfortable. They wanted me to keep the peace. But peace that asks you to abandon your child isn't peace, it's surrender. And I wasn't doing that anymore, so I let the silence grow. Didn't send thank you cards. Didn't reply to the guilt texts or the voicemails about how much they missed our energy. I stopped dancing around what they were unwilling to say. I let the silence speak for me. It said, "You drew the line first." I just stopped crossing it. It said, "If my daughter isn't welcome, then neither am I." It said, "I'm not waiting to be invited back to a table where she was never given a real seat." And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about it. I felt like a father. A week into January, I went to grab milk from the fridge and saw it. Emma had taped one of her sketches to the freezer door. It was us, just the three of us, me, Sarah, and Emma sitting at the kitchen table in our pajamas. Sarah was laughing, caught mid-eye roll at something I'd probably said. I was holding my coffee mug, the world's okayest dad one that always made Emma smile. Emma had drawn herself with her hoodie half off. A jelly bean stuck to her cheek, grinning like she'd just heard the best joke in the world. Above us, in her careful block letter handwriting, she'd written one word: family. No asterisk, no disclaimer, no step or sort of or technically or adopted or any of the qualifiers that had followed her around for 12 years. Just family. I stood there staring at it, one hand still on the fridge handle, and I felt something shift inside my chest. It was so simple, so quiet, but it hit harder than anything they'd ever said or done. All those years I'd spent trying to build a bridge, making sure we showed up to the birthdays, the holidays, the weddings, hoping that if we just kept crossing over, they'd finally meet us halfway. If we just tried hard enough, loved hard enough, showed up consistently enough, they'd eventually make room for both of us. They never did, and now I realize something that should have been obvious years ago. I shouldn't have been looking outward, trying to earn a seat at a table that was never meant for my daughter. I should have been looking right here, in this house, at this table. At this girl who had every reason to stop believing in love and chose to keep believing anyway. We weren't missing anything. We were just done pretending we needed their permission to be a family. No more begging to be acknowledged. No more hoping they'd wake up and see what was right in front of them. No more performing gratitude for the bare minimum of politeness. This was it. This was our family, and it was enough. It was more than enough. I didn't take the sketch down. I didn't frame it or try to preserve it. I just let it lie there on the fridge, between a crumpled pizza coupon and a reminder to buy more oat milk. Because that's where real love lives, not in grand gestures or perfect moments or holiday cards that make other people jealous. It lives in the ordinary spaces, in the everyday corners, in a kitchen where a 17-year-old girl can tape a drawing to the fridge and know it will stay there. Know it matters. Know she matters. And for the first time in years, we weren't reaching for anything. We weren't waiting for anyone. We weren't performing or hoping or trying to earn what we already had. We were home. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.